This is AgriCountry, brought to you in part by Alice Chalmers and your nearby Alice Chalmers dealer. And here's your host for AgriCountry, Ed Johnson.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of AgriCountry. We'll begin today's show by taking you to Ohio Ag Services. They're just west of Powell, Ohio. The people who do a lot of milk testing for dairying families all across Ohio. We're going to show you the processes there. From there, we're going to take you down into Pickaway County, just west of Circleville, Ohio, to the largest alcohol-producing plant that's on a farm in Ohio, the farm of John and Linda Stevenson. But John is also in a partnership with his sister, Elizabeth. We'll visit with her, too. And also, on today's edition of AgriCountry, a visit with the Ohio Young Farmers, Young Farm Wives, top community service couple, Rick and Sandy Borland, up near a little place called Morrow, Ohio. That's in Marion County. Welcome to this week's edition of AgriCountry. AgriCountry visiting this week with the people of Ohio Ag Services, the people who serve the dairying industry of the state of Ohio. And nice to share with you that they're neighbors of ours, just east of the farm by about 2 miles. We're first going to be talking with Stuart Johnson, who heads up testing, heads up the laboratory activities for Ohio Ag Services. And you know, Stuart, being an old dairy boy myself, for years and years, the tester comes by the farm, takes the samples. He's still a popular guy, brings those samples here to you people. Please take us from there.
Okay, once the samples come into our lab, we go through and verify that all the cows have a sample that are supposed to, and then we place them in the water bath here. We ship all the samples in refrigerated so that we don't lose any of the butter fat in transport. Then we put them in the water bath here to bring them back, the fat back to the natural state, and the water bath is held at the body temperature of a cow. Then, as you see, they place the samples on the rack here in the machine, and the machine analyzes, stirs and analyzes each sample for us. The machine analyzes fat and protein on every sample, and we have been running fat and protein on every sample for quite some time. And since we recently computerized our lab, we are providing fat and protein analysis to all the dairymen on test in Ohio.
I understand now that we may be looking more to protein content.
Yeah, that's very true. The protein content is becoming more and more important. That's actually the more important nutritional value of the milk is in the protein. And the fat content is losing some of its importance in the pricing policy of the co-ops that pay the dairy farmer. So in the future, we're hoping that we'll have enough information that they'll be able to look at protein the same way they look at fat now, in that they'll be able to breed up for protein, and it'll actually be in the pricing formula very soon on some of the large co-ops in this state, and it's already in the pricing formula in other states. Every cow, every herd on test is provided with protein, and we've been able to provide that at no extra charge.
You're also assisting the dairymen in mastitis control and would like to move now over to the machine where you test the samples for that. I understand this is what you call a somatic cell counter, and somatic cell count is exactly what?
Okay, that is an indication of what cows in the herd might have a problem with mastitis specifically. We have the Coulter counter here. It operates something like a blood cell counter in hospitals, and tells the farmer exactly which cows have a high cell count or a low cell count.
And Stu, can you define for our non-farming friends exactly what mastitis is?
That's an infection of the udder that will rob production.
Now, but you're taking this process an additional step now. Share that with our viewers.
Okay, the somatic cell count is a good early warning device, but it doesn't give him the total information he needs. To carry it a little further, we've been able to provide a mastitis culturing service. There are a large number of different infections that the farmer can have with mastitis, and by culturing the milk, we can find out exactly what problem he has and give him a good possibility of what treatment will work. We have some types of mastitis are very resistant to the antibiotics that have been in use. So he might need to switch antibiotics or that sort of thing.
With us now, Dr. Gary Davis of Greenbrier Laboratories out of Columbus. They work with the people here at Ohio Ag Services. Now, Doc, if we take this sample of milk and it's come through the machine and it has a somatic cell count, we know the dairyman has a problem. Where do you assist him now from this point on?
Okay, Ed, the next logical step is to, after we've determined that the cow has a high somatic count of, say, over 500,000 cells per milliliter of milk, the next two questions are what's causing the high count and what can we treat the cow with to lower the count. Most mastitis is caused by bacteria, so we want to focus on bacteria as the cause. There have been two problems historically in getting that kind of information. One has been getting a good sample. By that we mean a sample of milk that represents what's in the cow's udder, and getting the sample to a laboratory promptly.
Gary, you people have designed a kit that can actually assist the dairy farmer. Share that with us.
Certainly, Ed. The kit contains an insulated box with an ice bag to facilitate getting a good refrigerated sample to the laboratory.
Hold that bag up. Is that the bag that you would surround the test tube with?
This bag comes, it's pre-frozen, and the tube then is stored in the bag until it's needed. The tube is removed then and taken to the cow along with these alcohol pledgets.
So we should kind of pretend we're right in the dairy barn right now.
We're out in the dairy barn, Ed, and we've got a cow, and the cow's been milked. We take one of these alcohol swabs, clean off the teat end to help assure sterility, and then open the cap on the tube, which is sterile. That is, there are no bacteria inside, and take the tube like this, and we're now underneath this cow head, using your imagination, and we collect a small sample of milk from each quarter, or that is a composite sample that represents the entire udder. Then we recap the vial without touching the top of the vial, place the vial in the ice bag, fill out the necessary information about the cow, and close the kit up, put it in a mailing box, and send it off to our laboratory. The kit can arrive at the laboratory within 1 or 2 days. We can readily test the sample and determine two things. One, what organisms are present, and two, what antibiotics will kill that organism. He may decide to treat the cow, he may decide to dry her off early, but it becomes a decision that he has this additional bit of information to draw upon in making that decision with his veterinarian.
Our guest, Dr. Gary Davis, Greenbrier Laboratories, Columbus, Ohio. And I think that we can share with all of you the reason for all this is to improve production, but also to give you the best quality milk possible at the dairy case. AgriCountry taking you into Pickaway County. We're just a short piece west of Circleville, Ohio, right in the Scioto River bottom area. And we're here to talk to you about a number of things. And of course, we're at the farm of John and Linda Stevenson. And also in this broadcast, we're going to be visiting with a sister that's deeply involved as a partner with John in the acreage operation, and I also believe in the livestock, and we're going to visit with Elizabeth right in a tractor cab. One of the main reasons of bringing AgriCountry to you this week from this farm is that we are at a farm that has the largest alcohol producing plant in Ohio. John, 2 years ago, any farm magazine that you picked up had something about producing alcohol out on the farm for use as gasohol. I go way back. How did you happen to decide to be a farmer that would put in his own plant?
I guess maybe I was caught up with the mystique at the time and the patriotism at the time. Also, the fact that I'm involved in the Ohio Corn Grower Association, and there had access to maybe meeting some people who had the expertise to do it, and with that in mind, why we gathered those people together and tried to do it.
Also in mind that this just might be a way of achieving a better price per bushel of corn?
Well, that was definitely, profitability was definitely the motive, correct.
When we talk about something being profitable, can a fellow go, we saw a lot of little plants that fellows were trying to sell. Could a guy look at that and make it feasible at all, John?
Not the very small pot plants, and that's one thing we tried to stay away from, and that's the reason we went the size we did. This being the very minimum size that would be at all profitable. Something that runs 24 hours a day, almost every day of the year. You have to go at it in a professional manner or just forget it.
You call this Ag Energy Limited. How many people involved in this operation?
We have it set up as a limited partnership so that tax advantages can be put through. We don't need the tax advantages ourselves. Right now we are the sole partners. We have Linda and myself and 2 full-time employees, Mike Schaub and David Horst.
I want to come to Linda. Where would you become involved directly with the alcohol producing plant?
I'm more or less of a bookkeeper, file all the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearm reports, and we'll take a shift at nighttime up here if necessary.
Is the red tape, Linda, almost unbearable?
Once you get it figured out, it's all right, but reading government forms in their language is a totally different experience.
I want to talk about that, John, just a little bit with you. I understood at the onslaught that you might get some help from the Energy Department, and then the change in administrations and funds were cut. Washington, D.C. is kind of a bitter pill with you right now, isn't it?
It really is, and particularly with the rumor now that maybe all the tax aspects from road taxes at the 4-cent federal being eliminated. And, the alcohol producers look upon it as a real reneging, because alcohol producers did rally when there was a time of great need, when we were short of petroleum products, and now for them to just pull everything away, because a lot of these plants, their only profitability was that tax advantage, and that's one reason they went into it. In our own case, we lost all loan guarantees. We've had no grants or anything, and then, it's just been purely a private capital situation. And boy, it's been tough, because you're competing with an industry, the petroleum industry, that has been subsidized almost all its life. And it's a tough way to try to compete.
Any backdoor pressure, so to speak, John, from the petroleum companies?
Well, they're negative against alcohol as such. Most companies are. There are a few that really recognize what an octane enhancer alcohol can be. And even though the fact that gasohol is no longer touted, much of the low lead premium is boosted by ethanol now, and very quietly done and doing a superb job.
John, take our viewing friends now. Let's go from the beginning, where you bring the corn in to this alcohol plant, till you take the alcohol out.
We grind it first, taking about, if we're running in full operation, about 800 bushels of corn a week. It is ground, then it goes into a hot water slurry. We cook it and add enzymes. A lot of times we had to adjust the pH of it to get the proper enzyme reaction. It is turned to a liquefied starch at that stage. Then we cool it. It is cooked at about 2 hours at around 190 to 200 degrees. Then it is cooled to 140. A second enzyme is put into the product, a pH adjusted again. Then it is converted from a starch to a sugar, a simple sugar. And from then, we usually dewater it. And that is, we separate the solids and the liquids. The liquids are then cooled down to around 90 degrees and yeast added, and then lay in fermentation for about 3 days.
We're talking, so this is really labor intensive, and like someone said, you'd better be ready. It's just like milking cows.
Really, and their problems are very similar to milking cows, particularly when you have to be with it all the time and checking it. And we find bacteria are a problem, just multitudinous problems that we initially never anticipated.
How much investment might we be talking about in Ag Energy Limited?
Yeah, we're looking at around $250,000.
All right, for every bushel of corn that you put in, how many gallons of alcohol would you like to get out?
We would like to get out about 2.5 gallons, but the best we can run is about 2.4. We're working on that. We'll find better ways of doing it.
And do you have a market that wants your product?
Presently, we do not. We are not making anhydrous alcohol. Now, we do have a permit, which is a distilled spirits permit, which allows us to sell industrial alcohol.
And you are doing that?
We are attempting to. We're trying to break into that market because it is a little more lucrative, and they can use 190 proof rather than the anhydrous alcohol.
Do I gather from that, John, that you're just accumulating alcohol here at the farm now and not selling?
We presently have. Half of our production has been sold to another alcohol plant for dehydration. And if I may add, I would like to add, just great thanks to the Ohio Department of Energy and Ohio Department of Agriculture and Ohio State and Ohio Farm Bureau for all their assistance. And it's a lot of times it's a two-way street. We hope we've helped them on occasion, but if it had not been for their encouragement many times, I think Lynn and I both have and Dave and Mike would have just probably walked away.
There are byproducts that we always must be concerned about, but also can be a plus in an alcohol-producing plant. And we have some of that mash right here. John, what are you doing with that mash that comes off?
We're finding an excellent market with neighboring dairymen. The protein is something over 20%.
Yeah, I see. It's just, it seems like it would be a very palatable, nutritious kind of a product.
Plus, it gives a dairyman, a ruminant animal, like a dairy cow, the advantage of a bypass protein, and it just has so much more value than even soybean meal. It's just a superb product for a dairy situation.
When you come through with the final product, what kind of proof are we talking about? Pretty powerful stuff?
Well, yeah, it would light your mouth up pretty well, yes. It's we're running probably around 184 to 186 proof product, and that is, considerably over 90%.
Now, as a liquid product, you said that you were also giving the old cows.
Yes, the byproduct coming out of the bottom of distillation, which is the product, the liquid without the alcohol in it, is a spent beer or stillage, we call it. And we find that it makes a good supplement to the cattle. They drink it. They rather desire it, in fact. A very palatable product, high in proteins and minerals.
On every farm in Ohio right now, we're thinking about field work. As you prepare, Elizabeth, you and John, the rest of the family, how many acres are we talking about this year?
We have around 2,600 acres this year.
And I've been close to this family for a long time, and you've always been involved with the farm.
That's right. Ever since I was big enough to walk, I think I've been out helping.
How does that happen that you stayed right here?
I've always enjoyed farming. That's all I ever wanted to do.
And you and John actually do have a partnership arrangement, don't you?
That's right. I have some of my own land also, and then we farm some in partnership.
And are you doing some leasing as well?
That's right. We rent some from other neighbors.
Another lady involved in this operation, and that's Susan. Susan, you finished at Ohio State and now going to spend the spring here at the farm. What will be some of your activities here?
I plan on running some of the tractors this summer, and then I also plan later on, after the crops are in, to crop scout for the farm.
That's kind of a familiar term in Ohio, the scouting program by the extension people, but you're going to scout right here. What will be some of the things that you'll be looking for?
Well, in the corn, I'll be looking for rootworm problems, and we're doing some no-till this year. I'm going to be looking for armyworms and things like that. And the soybeans, be looking for the bean leaf beetles and the Mexican bean beetles in particular. They've been a problem the past couple of years in this area.
Lots of promotion by the USDA to participate in the acreage reduction program. Elizabeth, will you and John be participating?
Yes, we plan to sign up, Ed. If conditions should be such, we wouldn't have to go on with the program, but right now we plan to sign.
With us this week on AgriCountry, the top community service couple of the Ohio Young Farmers and Young Farm Wives, and we say congratulations to Rick and Sandy Borland, their chapter, the Ridgedale Young Farmers, Young Farm Wife chapter, and of course that's in Marion County near a little place called Morrow, Ohio. Rick, what was the key factor as you look back and being named the top couple?
I guess it would have to be the interview that we had. I feel that we must have done a good job on the interview because all the applicants, when we heard their applications, the other things that they had done, we felt that there wasn't a chance for us to win the award as far as the state level.
What are some of the things that they interview you on?
Well, all the community activities that we've participated in as far as on a young farmer level and in the community service and church and social activities.
Do they try to put you on the spot, Sandy, in the interviews?
Oh, they sure did, Ed. In fact, the one question that really stunned me the most was when they asked me, why do we think we deserve this award more than anybody else? And I almost felt arrogant answering it, but I had to be truthful and say that I thought that we had the best community activities. We were in activities that we felt were important to our development, to our children's development, to the community's development. And also, we wanted to bring this award home for our chapter so we could build up some chapter involvement in the state activities for our young farmers and young farm wives.
These are trying times, especially for young couples in agriculture. How do the two of you look at 82 and look at agriculture in general, Rick?
Well, it looks awful depressing right now, but you know, we've had some spells where times look awful tough and doesn't look like we're going to be able to make it through, and things like this kind of keep it together, and we're looking forward to 82 and hope that we can work a lot of the problems out, and hope that the country itself can come out from under this depression we're somewhat in right now.
Well, certainly nice to have the two of you on AgriCountry, and we've been visiting with Rick and Sandy Borland of the Ridgedale chapter of Young Farmers, Young Farm Wives, Marion County, and just recently named the top community service couple in the state of Ohio.
So good to have you with us for today's edition of AgriCountry. And again, we would like your participation. If you have any ideas, any suggestions for AgriCountry, just send them to ABN TV, 1819 West Lane Avenue, Columbus, Ohio, 43221. Next week, we're going to take you into Madison County, to the Madison Seed Company, where we learn about certified seed, registered seed, germination. Our guest will be Bill Hanasek. From there, we're going to take you into Western Ohio, in the Troy area, to the beef and grain operation of Dwayne Demmett. And also next week here on AgriCountry, we will visit with Betty Grooms, top young farm wife of Ohio, as selected by the Ohio Young Farmers, Young Farm Wives, and their farming operation is in southwest Ohio in Adams County.
Thank you for joining us today for AgriCountry with Ed Johnson, brought to you in part by Alice Chalmers and your local Alice Chalmers dealer. AgriCountry recognizes farm families who produce daily our abundant food supply.